Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Debates in discourse analysis. Debates in discourse analysis refer to the study of structured, often adversarial exchanges of language where different positions, ideas, or ideologies are argued over. Debates, whether in political settings, media, academic discussions, or everyday conversations, are rich sites for discourse analysis because they reveal how language is used to construct arguments, assert power, negotiate meanings, and influence audiences. In discourse analysis, researchers study how participants use language to frame their arguments, persuade others, challenge opponents, and construct their identities in relation to the issues at stake. Debates are particularly valuable for examining how language reflects and reinforces societal values, ideologies, and power relations, as well as how it functions as a tool for persuasion and conflict resolution. Discourse analysis of debates can uncover both the explicit and implicit strategies that speakers use to maintain or contest dominance, shape public opinion, or establish legitimacy. Key features of debates in discourse analysis. Point 1. Argumentation strategies. In debates, speakers often employ various argumentation strategies to convince the audience of their position. These strategies may include the use of logos, logic, ethos, credibility, and pathos, emotional appeal. Discourse analysis examines how these rhetorical tools are used to frame arguments, create authority, and influence the direction of the debate. Example: in political debates, candidates frequently use facts and statistics to bolster their claims. Logos, but they also rely on emotional appeals, pathos, to connect with voters. In a debate on healthcare, a politician might present data on rising healthcare costs while also sharing personal stories of citizens who struggled to afford care. Discourse analysis would focus on how these strategies function together to persuade the audience and shape the debate. Point 2. Power dynamics and control. Debates often involve participants with differing levels of power, influence, or authority. Discourse analysis of debates can reveal power dynamics, such as how one participant dominates the conversation, controls the framing of issues, or silences others. By analyzing interruptions, topic control, or question framing, discourse analysts can explore how language reflects and reproduces power imbalances. Example: in a televised presidential debate, the moderator might structure the debate by asking questions that favor one candidate or limit the other's opportunity to respond fully. Discourse analysis would explore how such language choices create an unequal dynamic, potentially shaping the audience's perception of the candidates. Point 3. Framing of issues. In debates, participants seek to frame issues in ways that support their positions. Framing involves highlighting certain aspects of an issue while downplaying others, thus shaping how the audience understands and evaluates the topic. Discourse analysis investigates how issues are framed, whose perspectives are emphasized, and how these frames influence public perception. Example: in a debate about immigration, one side might frame the issue in terms of national security and the need for stronger borders, while the other side frames it as a humanitarian crisis requiring compassionate immigration policies. Discourse analysis would focus on how each side's framing reflects different societal values and how these frames influence the audience's stance on immigration. Point 4. Use of metaphor and figurative language. Metaphors and other forms of figurative language are often used in debates to simplify complex issues, evoke emotions, and shape the audience's understanding. Metaphor analysis within discourse analysis examines how metaphors frame arguments and make abstract concepts more tangible and persuasive. Example: in economic debates, a politician might use the metaphor of the economy as a ship to suggest that, under their leadership, the country will stay the course or navigate through rough waters. Discourse analysis would explore how this metaphor positions the speaker as a steady leader in times of uncertainty and implicitly frames the economy as something that requires strong guidance. Point 5. Identity construction. Debates are also platforms for the construction of identities, both for the participants themselves and for the groups they represent. Discourse analysis looks at how language is used to construct or project certain identities, such as authority figures, protectors of the public, or voices of reason, and how opponents are positioned as less credible, uninformed, or out of touch. Example: in a debate about education reform, a candidate might position themselves as the advocate for parents and students by using inclusive language such as we and our children, while positioning their opponent as an elitist who is disconnected from the needs of average families. Discourse analysis would focus on how this identity construction is achieved through specific linguistic choices and framing strategies. Point 6. Intertextuality. Debates often reference previous arguments, historical events, or other discourses, a feature known as intertextuality. Discourse analysis explores how these references are used to bolster arguments, create continuity, or appeal to shared knowledge and values within the audience. Example: in a debate about national security, a politician might reference the attacks of 9/11 to justify increased defense spending, drawing on a shared historical event to support their argument. Discourse analysis would examine how this intertextual reference lends authority to the speaker's position and connects the present debate to a broader historical narrative. Methods for analyzing debates in discourse analysis. Point 1. Critical discourse analysis, CDA. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, is a powerful method for exploring how debates reflect and reinforce power relations, ideologies, and social inequalities. CDA focuses on uncovering how language in debates serves to maintain or challenge dominant power structures and ideologies. Example: a CDA of debates on climate change might reveal how fossil fuel industry representatives use language to downplay scientific consensus and create doubt about the urgency of climate action. The analysis would focus on how language is used to maintain corporate power and delay regulatory change, reflecting broader capitalist ideologies. Point 2. Argumentation theory. Argumentation theory in discourse analysis examines the structure and strategies of arguments presented in debates. This approach focuses on how speakers construct their claims, support them with evidence, and refute opposing arguments. It also looks at the logical coherence and rhetorical effectiveness of the arguments. Example: in a legal debate on gun control, argumentation analysis would focus on how each side builds its case, whether through constitutional rights, e.g., appeals to the Second Amendment, or public safety concerns, e.g., statistical evidence of gun violence, and how these arguments are structured to persuade the audience. Point 3. Framing analysis. Framing analysis is particularly useful for studying how issues are presented in debates. By examining which aspects of an issue are emphasized, omitted, or framed in a particular way, discourse analysts can uncover how participants attempt to influence public opinion and policy outcomes. Example: in debates over COVID-19 vaccines, some participants frame the issue as a matter of public health and responsibility, emphasizing the need to protect the vulnerable, while others frame it as an issue of individual freedom and choice. Framing analysis would explore how these competing frames resonate with different audience segments and influence public discourse around vaccination policies. Point 4. Turn-taking and interactional analysis. In debates, the way participants take turns speaking, interrupt each other, or dominate the conversation can reveal underlying power dynamics. Interactional analysis focuses on the micro-level features of debate, such as turn-taking, interruptions, and how participants manage or resist control of the debate's flow. Example: in a televised political debate, a candidate may frequently interrupt their opponent to assert dominance, or the moderator may cut off certain participants more than others. Interactional analysis would explore how these dynamics affect the debate's overall structure and the audience's perception of the participants. Examples of debates in discourse analysis. Example 1. Political debates on immigration. In political debates about immigration, discourse analysis often reveals how language reflects broader societal values such as security, national identity, and human rights. For instance, a candidate advocating for stricter immigration policies may use terms like protect our borders or keep our communities safe, framing immigrants as potential threats. Conversely, a candidate advocating for more lenient policies might use phrases like supporting families or providing opportunities, framing immigration as a human rights issue. Discourse analysis would focus on how these differing frames influence public attitudes and policy decisions. Example 2. Environmental debates on climate change. Discourse analysis of debates on climate change might examine how different stakeholders, scientists, politicians, activists, and industry leaders, use language to argue for or against environmental policies. Environmental activists might use phrases like climate emergency and existential threat to frame climate change as an urgent crisis, while opponents might frame policies aimed at curbing emissions as job killers or economic burdens. Discourse analysis would explore how these contrasting frames reflect different ideological positions and influence policy debates. Example 3. Academic debates on gender identity. Discourse analysis of academic debates on gender identity can uncover how language reflects shifting societal norms and values around gender. In such debates, some scholars might use traditional binary gender terms, reflecting a more conservative view of gender, while others might adopt language that reflects non-binary or gender-fluid identities. Discourse analysis would explore how these language choices reflect different ideological perspectives on gender and how they contribute to broader cultural debates on identity and inclusion. Example 4. Media debates on free speech. In media debates about free speech, discourse analysis can reveal how language is used to negotiate the balance between freedom of expression and social responsibility. Some participants might frame the debate in terms of protecting free speech as a fundamental democratic right, while others frame it as a matter of preventing hate speech and protecting marginalized communities. Discourse analysis would focus on how these competing frames reflect broader societal tensions around civil liberties and social justice. Challenges in analyzing debates through discourse. Point 1. Contextual complexity. Debates often involve participants from different social, political, or cultural backgrounds, each bringing their own contextual knowledge and values. Discourse analysts must carefully consider the contextual factors that influence the participants' language choices and arguments, including historical, cultural, and political influences. Point 2. Bias and interpretation. Discourse analysts must remain aware of their own biases when interpreting debates, as their personal or ideological perspectives can influence how they interpret language and arguments. Reflexivity is crucial to ensure that the analysis remains grounded in the data rather than shaped by preconceived notions. Point 3. Rapid shifts in discourse. In fast-paced debates, arguments and counter-arguments can shift rapidly. Discourse analysts must be able to track these changes and consider how new information or tactics introduced during the debate alter the direction of the discussion. Conclusion. Debates provide rich material for discourse analysis, as they showcase the strategic use of language to persuade, influence, and shape public opinion. Through the study of argumentation strategies, framing, power dynamics, and identity construction, discourse analysts can uncover how debates reflect broader social values, ideologies, and power structures. Whether examining political debates, media discussions, or academic arguments, discourse analysis provides valuable insights into how language functions as a tool for negotiation, persuasion, and societal change. Frequently asked questions. What are debates in discourse analysis? Debates in discourse analysis involve the study of structured exchanges of language where participants argue differing positions on issues. These settings, such as political, media, or everyday conversations, allow discourse analysts to explore how language is used to construct arguments, challenge opponents, and influence audiences. Why are debates significant in discourse analysis? Debates are valuable in discourse analysis because they reveal how language reflects societal values, ideologies, and power relations. They provide insight into the strategies speakers use to assert dominance, shape public opinion, and construct identities, showing how discourse both reflects and influences societal structures. How are argumentation strategies analyzed in debates? Discourse analysis examines how participants use logos, logic, ethos, credibility, and pathos, emotional appeal, to build their arguments and persuade audiences. Researchers focus on how these strategies are combined to make claims more convincing and influence the course of a debate. How do debates reflect power dynamics? In debates, power dynamics can be seen through who dominates the conversation, how topics are controlled, and how opponents are silenced. Discourse analysts study features like interruptions, turn-taking, and framing of issues to uncover how language reflects and reinforces power imbalances among participants. What role does framing play in debates? Framing in debates refers to how participants highlight certain aspects of an issue while downplaying others to support their positions. Discourse analysis investigates how these frames influence the audience's perception of the debate, often reflecting underlying ideologies and societal values. How are metaphors used in debates? Metaphors simplify complex issues, evoke emotions, and help make arguments more relatable. Discourse analysis examines how metaphors frame issues in debates and contribute to shaping audience understanding, often revealing deeper ideological positions behind the arguments. How is identity constructed in debates? Participants in debates use language to project identities, whether as authoritative, empathetic, or knowledgeable figures. Discourse analysis looks at how speakers construct their identities and position their opponents, shaping how they are perceived by the audience and influencing the debate's outcome. What methods are used to analyze debates in discourse analysis? Methods include critical discourse analysis, CDA, argumentation theory, framing analysis, and interactional analysis. These approaches focus on how arguments are constructed, how power and control manifest in interactions, and how issues are framed to influence public perception. What challenges arise when analyzing debates through discourse? Challenges include understanding the contextual complexity of participants' language choices, remaining unbiased in interpretation, and tracking rapid shifts in arguments. These complexities require careful analysis to accurately interpret the discourse and its impact. How do debates influence societal change? Debates shape public discourse by introducing new ideas, challenging dominant narratives, and influencing societal values. Through discourse analysis, researchers can uncover how debates contribute to shifting norms, policies, and ideologies, reflecting and driving societal change.